Where are we?
I'm waiting, Cloud.
What the hell is this?
This is... Sephiroth. Let's finish this.
Final boss time against Sephiroth. Do you have any idea how long I've been waiting to be able to say a sentence like that in any Let's Play? Anyway, phase 1 of the fight. If he uses a physical attack, get ready on the counter. If you have counter stance ready for the ATB, use it. When he goes to use magic, any ATB skill that hits will do. If you don't have any ATB, you just gotta block it and try and get out the way. Anytime you do successfully counter one of his skills, also be wary for that. The onslaught where he jumps down, it's an unblockable, so you do have to just dodge it and accept. Every time you do successfully counter one of his skills or interrupt one of his skills, it will pressure him, allowing you to build up the stagger. When you build up the stagger, the first hit you deliver will make that cinematic attack happen, but be wary because he can do it straight back to you if you let him, which is what happens here. He can absolutely send you to other platforms on a moment's notice if he feels the need. But you see that even the slightest glimmer of a tap from the focus thrust completely interrupted it. So you should be using that to your full advantage.
Need some help?
Don't know about me. Good to go?
You know it.
Phase 2 will be different depending on interactions you have made throughout the entire game. That is interacting with Tifa, interacting with Aerith, and interacting with Barret. How much you've engaged with them, how much you've heard them out, how much you've done little side things with them, how much you've annoyed them, etc, etc. The characters with the highest, invisible value will join the party. I've never had Barret join first to know what that looks like and what dialogue comes from that. Also, this is unfortunate that I set up counter stance and Sephiroth went into his own counter stance and his lasts longer. But for me, my highest point value was with Tifa, so Tifa joined first. So in phase 2, it's the Cloud and Tifa show. Which is perfect for me because, Tifa's got all of her skills to hold Sephiroth in place and can have alternate means of building up the actual percentage of the stagger once we get there to really lay on the pain and rip through phase 2. Phase 2, though, in terms of battle sense, is not too dissimilar from the first phase. He has a couple extra tricks and a lot more of them are uninterruptible, so you have to pay attention more to the flow of the battle. He additionally has, as you saw there, Silencia, which is a counter stance, and Hell's Gate, where he will slam the ground with a sword thrust and create a star-like shaped explosion around him. Getting caught in the shockwave or the strike will do immense damage.
Ain't you two having fun?
Let's go. Enjoy.
But because I didn't interact in a friendly manner with Aerith that much, Barrett took over, so Barrett becomes the third and final member that will be participating in this final battle against Sephiroth. The reason being is because of all the wall market stuff. I am willing to bet it's entirely because of the wall market interactions. Where I was going for the smarter quest line and the cleaner quest line, I very rarely engaged with Aerith and actively avoided a lot of smaller engagements that could have built up more points of value towards Aerith to make her appear in this fight. So we get Barrett instead. And to be fair, I'm happy with that, because 99% of people who get here get Tifa and Aerith. So the fact that I had Barrett instead is like, okay, cool, that's something a little bit more unique to most people playing this. You might not have even seen Barrett participate in this fight or even be aware that he can be. As I said, for me personally, I've never seen Barrett be the first person to join. I've never seen he have the highest point value. And I imagine it's going to be things like turning down the drink in Chapter 3 from Tifa, like being really mean to Aerith, and then the only sign of kindness being picking her first in the sewers on Chapter 10. Just so then Tifa's kept low as well. Like, I can imagine there'd be a lot of things like that you could maybe force Barrett to join first by that. But why would you want to be that mean? The way Phase 3 works is that Sephiroth will alternate between 4 elements. Remember that color coding shit that I was talking about when we fought the Hell House, and I told you, remember it because it's going to matter for a boss fight way later? Well, this is way later. Sephiroth, when he is using fire magic, you need to be hitting him with ice to interrupt him. When he's using ice, use fire. When he's using electric, you need to use wind. And when he's using wind, you need to use electricity. If you fail to interrupt him for a set period of time, he will use one of his strongest attacks. He will use Octoslash. In both normal and hard, it is extremely rare that anyone will survive it, even at full health, because it hits 8 times, you know, and each hit will do close to 1,000 damage. Maybe if you have like 2 HP boosters and they're both maxed out, that maybe you'll be like so close to 9,999 that you'll barely be able to tank it. But as a general rule, you shouldn't be allowing it to happen full stop. If you can get at least a weak cast of a magic on him, don't stress too much if you can't get the ATB to get another one on. If, say, like he's on fire mode and you get a Blizzara on him, don't stress too much about having to get another Blizzara if you don't get the interruption. It will still build up like this interruption bar almost. But here's Octoslash and there goes Tifa. As I said, you need to be stopping it at all costs. But as I was saying before that happened, even if it doesn't get the interrupt, the fact that you're on the right path, the game kind of gives you a freebie to an extent, where if you start wailing on him afterwards, you'll usually get the interrupt. You just need to have like the good intention and show that you have an understanding of what the fight's demanding of you in Phase 3. That right now he's in wind mode, he needs to be hit with electricity. If we can get a hit of electricity on him, even if we don't get the stun from the electric spell itself, it will build up, like, pretend there's an invisible meter, and it's that meter has to fill up for him to be stunned and allow you to start pressuring him. That invisible meter will still jack way up even if you don't get the stun immediately. And annoyingly, Sephiroth kind of picks whoever he feels like the target, so there's a lot of instances where you're going to see me waste a counter stance. But there are other instances where I get very cheeky and get one like there, where you see me just barely squeeze it in on the quick command, and it just happened to line up well enough to give it to me. But you're seeing I am desperate to try and get another stun here, but I'm aware that Cloud's getting his ass whooped. Here's the process. Look, he's nearly down. Another Octoslash is coming, but because I swapped to Tifa, he's coming straight for Tifa. He will always charge full pelt at whoever you're controlling in that instance. So you can kind of actually abuse that to sacrifice someone if you know you're not going to be able to get rid of it in time. Like, you can make Barrett Steel Skin and swap to him, for instance, and desperately try and interrupt as I try and get Tifa back up. And I just barely got it before the Blizzaga interrupted. Because yes, of course Sephiroth has Faraga, Blizzaga, Thundaga, and Iroga. Of course he has the highest tier. I'm expecting whenever we fight him in the future parts for him to start ripping out Quakeger. Even though I don't think Quakeger's a thing, he'll make it up just so he can have a stronger version of Quake than us. I guarantee he'll use Flare in a later fight. When he comes back in the series, I'm willing to bet on that he will have Flare. Also, Barrett's down as well, great. Making the situation a little bit more intense as we just barely managed to get the interruption, I think. Oh no, not yet, but we did hit him with a firer, so he is close to the interruption. And I even send another one just to guarantee. And I'm like, okay, get that stagger bar up, and then one person do that, get Barrett back on the field, and the moment the stagger starts, Dolphin Fury. Final phase. The entire fight is now under a time limit. That illusion of an explosive meteor will destroy all of you, illusionary or not, if he counts down to 0. As the fight goes on from this point, Sephiroth will slowly start counting down. He will go 10, 9, all the way down. At around 7, there will be like a minuscule cinematic of him showing the meteor getting much closer, and the ground around you will start to glow to imply that it's getting real close. Which is a nice visual effect and really helps set in the danger of the situation. But like I said, you're also on the 4th and final phase of the fight, so you haven't got much life left to get through. You're so nearly there, you just have to deal with everything. Every single trick in the book is now going to be at Sephiroth's disposal, and this includes Artless Angel, an attack that you might more recognize from Kingdom Hearts. He will get reduced your health to 1. Thankfully, it doesn't take the magic nerf. In Kingdom Hearts, it destroys all your magic as well, like empties out your magic and puts your health to 1. In this, it only resets your health to 1, and I can only imagine that's to keep it balanced for hard mode, because hard mode would be brutal since there's no way to restore your magic. But it's about time we wrap this up. Cloud's got a limit break raring to go, and we should be ripping it now.
Nope.
Get it? About time you showed it.
We can do this. We can. We can change it. Make it right.
Careful now. That which lies ahead does not yet exist. Our world will become a part of it one day, but I will not end. Nor will I have you end. the edge of creation. Cloud, lend me your strength. Let us defy destiny together.
Never.
Not yet. Seven seconds till the end. Time enough for you, perhaps. But what will you do with it? Let's see.
Mr. Vice President.
Mr. President.
That's right.
Wait. Was that all of them? Hey, Cloud. You see that?
Here.
Thank you.
Marlene?
Coming! Daddy?
Marlene! I'll come back.
So, what now?
Sephiroth. As long as he's still out there.
I thought you beat him.
We can. We will. Count me in.
If it's to be a hunt, you could use a nose like mine.
I'm in too. Bastard wants to destroy the whole planet, doesn't he? An enemy of hers is an enemy of Avalanche.
Almost there, Cloud. We're almost there.
I miss it. The steel sky.
I would be lost, drifting alone, floating up high, time after.
Okay, I am very glad that the credit sequence is extremely long in this game, because I want to give my final thoughts, obviously, but there's also a lot I need to break down and talk about what's just happened. I'll start with my final thoughts, because I imagine for people that are more casually into this, that'll be the thing you're more interested in than me theorizing the future. If you haven't gathered already, I love this game. This is genuinely not only my game of the year of 2020, but also my favourite game of last gen. It's, in my opinion, one of the greatest games on PS4. Now it's on PS5, and now admittedly quite clunky right this second, but it's also on the Epic Game Store. I cannot stress enough, please give this game a shot. Please play it. It is so phenomenal. There is so much passion and heart here. There's so much invoking and clever storytelling. There's so much power in the music. There's so much energy and life in the characters. The environments are cool. Like, the bosses are some of the most fun bosses I've played against in years. This game is a goldmine of just beautiful moments and excellent gamey shit that absolutely should be tried by everyone at least once. And if any of this stuff in this game seems slightly too hard, there is a good variety of difficulty options and modifiers to make it more approachable for you. I just really cannot stress enough, try this game out. This game, and the entire ending, I was crying like a bitch for the entire credits after that ending, because it's the party, it's the main opening 5 that leave Midgar coming together and agreeing to fight as one to take on the conquest against Sephiroth, because he's still out there. He doesn't die, we didn't kill him or anything like that at the end of that final boss. We just kind of like shoot him away. Just seeing the gang that I have known my entire life in photorealism come together as one and agree to join the fight to go explore the world in search of Sephiroth, it pulls at your heartstrings, dude. It certainly pulled at mine. But it's time to get on to the discussion. There is a lot, and I will start with something I alluded to in the last video, because I know I'll forget if I don't start now. Also, the music that plays in the credits really didn't help my emotional state. Hollow is a beautiful main theme song, and I feel like it is perfect because Final Fantasy 8 and 9 back in the day had theme songs, but 7 never did of the PS1 trilogy, so it feels like this remake finally got the chance to rectify that, and Hollow is perfect. But it plays Aeris' theme, and it plays the main theme later on. Like, as in like the main theme of Final Fantasy 7, not the main theme of the franchise, the main theme of 7. And I was in tears. I genuinely was just bawling my eyes out when I first got it. But I'll start with the point I alluded to. In the last video when we was fighting the Harbingers, we were fighting the Harbinger, and then we had the three spirits that I said were the Advent Children. I said the Harbinger is heavily theorized to be something else, but I drifted away from it because I didn't want to give it away. Although it's not confirmed, obviously, to take it with a pinch of salt, there's a lot of theories, especially from its bio when you read it, that suggests that the Harbinger is a version of Sephiroth from thousands of years in the future, if not millions of years in the future. And you're sitting there and going, how does that make sense? Well, here's something I'm going to blow your mind on, and this is what's confirmed. There are several Sephiroths throughout the course of this game. There are multiple different versions of Sephiroth throughout the course of the story, which is why things were getting messed with so severely. There's the Sephiroth imitation that Jenova made. There is a version of that was the version that came and took Jenova, and is the hooded figures with the numbers on their arms that we saw that kept on just mumbling Jenova or falling silent all the time. They made an illusion of Sephiroth to get Jenova out of the Shinra HQ. The other Sephiroth, and this is spoilers for the original game, the next Sephiroth is actually in an area called the Northern Crater. He's holed up basically in a crystal, waiting for Jenova to reach him. And that's as far as I'm going to go, because like I said, if you haven't played the original, I'd highly implore you to. I really want you to do it. The third Sephiroth, and arguably a fourth and fifth, depending on how far you want to look into it, was the one that was actively fucking with us throughout the entire course of the story. The one that was randomly showing up, spouting nonsense into Cloud's ear, and then vanishing moments later. It was the feather we'd see here, there, and everywhere, and was the Sephiroth we fought as the final boss. That Sephiroth is from the future. He's post-Advent Children Sephiroth, hence why he has the wing. In some form or another, he gained access in the life stream after the events of Advent Children to find a way to go back in time. And so he went back in time to his original defeat, or I say that his most significant defeat, to alter the past and alter the line of fate to correct that. Which is where this comes into a point I said in the last video. This isn't a remake, it is a sequel, because it is based after the original game, after the film that followed, a version of that villain from the film after that, going back in time to alter the events of the original story, and that is what we are playing through. The madmen and women at Square literally did that, and that's not even me theorizing at that point. They literally confirmed it. That is exactly what they were doing. That they went down that road and decided, you know what, no, let's play on expectations and blow people's minds, and I think they excelled at it because they did something so crazy. This game was everything I could have imagined it to be, but it also surprised me in so many ways I never could have envisioned when I first fired it up when it launched. Well, you can even see it in the credits scene now. That's one of the examples I mean, where, like, in Sephiroth in the Fire, that's the future Sephiroth messing with Cloud to try and alter things. It's why the Phantom Spirit things show up in the first place, because they sense Sephiroth, future Sephiroth's presence fucking with time and the future. So they step in to do everything in their power to not only intervene, but keep things on track. The first major example, where we see the Fate Whispers messing around with Aerith, what they were doing was making sure Aerith stayed put, because Sephiroth deliberately distracted us to drag out time, so then Cloud would not meet with Aerith because he would be too late. In the same vein, he messed with the situation and messed with Cloud's psyche to make the party have doubts on Cloud, and so they wouldn't bring him along for the second reactor mission, which is why the Spirits Whispers intervened and hurt Jesse to force Cloud to be rejoined. They did everything in their power to make sure fate was upheld, because Sephiroth was actively fighting it at every opportunity to try and defy his fate. The ultimate lure being at the end, where he straight up lures you into the Whispers territory and has you kill the Harbinger. But as I've said before, the Harbinger is theorized heavily to be a version of Sephiroth from millions of years ago, or millions of years in the future, sorry. So it's like, it just gets crazier and crazier, dude. It genuinely keeps on going. And even then, we haven't even got to the big one that the game showed at the end. The dark-haired fellow that I referred to in the last video, his name is Zack Fair. Zack is a character that I mentioned before, died before the events of the original story. In a prequel game called Crisis Core, you get to experience his whole story in its entirety. His death, without spoiling the original story too much, his death is the only reason why the story can happen. If he hadn't died and survived, the events of the entirety of Final Fantasy VII's story would be radically different. But as you saw there, he survived that fight because we messed with fate. And you might sit there and go, well, wouldn't that change the entire course of reality? Remember when I was talking about the singularity and how singularities in sci-fi media affect the past as well? But when they do affect the past, they destroy logic of the present, and so paradoxes can be made, which is why timelines get split in sci-fi. Well, that's exactly what happened, and the proof is right in front of you. Throughout the game, we've learned of the Shinra logo guard dog. A lovely little dog that we used to explore the tunnels and is seen on advertising everywhere throughout the game. When the cutscene with Zack showing he survives goes, a paper bag flies by in the wind, and it has a different breed of dog. And it's the same dog though, the same advertising and everything, but it's a different breed, because it's a different timeline now. Zack's in a different timeline. He's in a different universe, so to speak. He survived in his timeline, which is why that bit where it showed Cloud and Zack seemingly crossing paths, that's because they technically were, but not in the same universe. There's a different timeline going on there, and I'm very curious to see how it will touch upon. And they're kind of the big ones. There are a lot of smaller stuff that, from those three big ones, you can start to piece together yourself. Like, the joke that stuck around a lot during the time was that Red 13 became aware of the script. Aerith is following the script and making sure everyone else does, while Sephiroth said screw the script. And the entire premise of this game is based around that ideology of Aerith trying to make sure everyone follows the script, while Sephiroth tries to make sure everyone breaks from the script. Because Aerith following the script will save the world, Sephiroth breaking the script will destroy the world. Aerith said it best. He will tell you that he's in it for the planet, but that couldn't be any more further from the truth. But now to go on to what people are theorizing and hoping for the future, and I'll start with what I want. I need to talk about a major twist from the end of Disc 1 from the original game, and if you don't know it, it's one of the most infamous twists in gaming, to an extent as the same as Darth Vader being Luke's father. So if you don't know it, I'm not going to be here and be like, oh, well, have you been living under a rock? Because I understand the game's 22 years old, so it's had time to be forgotten. But I will be stressing that I'm about to spoil it, so if you don't want to hear it, wrap up the video here and thank you for watching. But I am going to be spoiling stuff from the original game from this point onwards. I'll give you about 2 seconds. Anyway, for the rest of you still around, Aerith dies at the end of Disc 1. Aerith gets stabbed and dies, and her death is another central death that has to happen no matter what for the story to continue. There are plot points and physical pieces of the plot that will not make sense and cannot even begin to happen if it doesn't involve Aerith dying at the end of Disc 1 of the original game. A lot of people at first theorized that this whole Defying Fate thing was to finally give Aerith fans the happy ending of that she gets to survive to the end of the game. I couldn't disagree harder. I think because of how prominent it is, Aerith is going to die no matter what in a future part, but they're going to use this whole Defied Fate thing to do everything in their power to make you think they're going to change it. They're going to play off the fact that they know that you know the original story, to try and deliberately make you think something and then catch you again. Because the reason why Aerith's death is so infamous is because it caught everyone off guard at the time. No one in their right mind expected it, yet it was such a perfectly executed twist that started the later half of Final Fantasy VII and always put a dark edge on everything you did and really realized the risk of everything you were doing. That Aerith, the sweet flower girl who's kind of portrayed as this almost love interest, gets killed, and there's no two-way around it. There's no way to stop it, no way to get involved, no way to change it. She dies. End of. I think the remake's going to put everything in your mind to make you think that's going to change, just so then they can kill her again and try and make that same impact hit twice. And I know, like, me calling it out and a lot of people thinking that now as well might harm it if it actually happens, but I think that's the beauty of it. I think if they get it really on the point, they could get, even those people saying that, even me saying that, could get tricked into thinking they're gonna save Aerith just to have her die anyway and it gut punch you so stupidly hard. The reason why I said at the start of this credits piece that I got most emotional again hearing Aerith's theme is because I knew in the back of my mind what was coming in future parts, and so then playing Aerith's theme immediately shot the image of her death into my mind. All the little glimmers you've seen in the remake where Cloud gets a vision of like Aerith praying, or a materia dropping off the floor, or like water in like a crystally area, they're all referencing Aerith's demise. So I think it's still gonna happen. I think it's still there. I think they're just already laying the seeds because they have all these like premonitions of the future before you defy fate. They're trying to make you think that some things won't happen. They're already trying to do that, I think. I think they're already trying to put in this doubt in your mind that Aerith will live. And the fact that the initial theories that most people had was that they were going to save Aerith, to me proves that they did it right. It's just a matter of making sure they capitalize it on future parts, and, as horrible as it sounds, commit to killing Aerith still. I can't stress enough. If you get a chance to play the original game yourself, if you haven't already, you'll understand exactly what I mean in the later half of the story. It genuinely would not work if it wasn't for Aerith's death. The Cloud and Co would not do what they do, would not think to do what they do, and would not eventually find their way to end the fight for good if it wasn't for Aerith's death. Which is why it's so greatly significant. And the thing is, they can hammer in how painful it is because of Zack. Zack's in another timeline. Something could happen to Aerith in Zack's timeline, so you have to witness this pain twice. They could double down on it and make it truly diabolical. As for Zack with the timelines, I actually don't think it's going to get touched upon too much in the future. I think it will be a little bit, but I think it will really be not much at first. I honestly think the next time it will touch upon it will actually be either part 3 or part 4, basically whichever part of the remake is the last one. I think we'll get little glimmers and catch-up scenes, but I don't think it will be like Final Fantasy VIII with the Man of the Machine Gun level, where you alternate perspectives every now and then. I don't think it will be that. I genuinely think it will still be mostly the Final Fantasy VII you remember now remade, just with smaller things different, and every now and then you might get a little scene touching in on Zack. But I think in the final part, something will happen and the timelines will converge briefly for the true final boss against Sephiroth in the final part. Or at least that's less theorizing, more hoping, because can you imagine how hyped that would be, considering how crazy the final boss fights in this game were, and how crazy this entire game was, how much further they could go with it. Absolutely, have Cloud and Zack versus Sephiroth. Give the ultimate satisfaction to not only the original Final Fantasy VII fans by having a powerful fight between Cloud and Sephiroth, but give the ultimate conclusion to every Crisis Core fan who loved Zack and wished he got a better ending. Make it so Zack can get his own justice for everything that happened before the timelines re-disconnect and Zack lives his own life or whatever, or maybe Zack dies again to complete the cycle to make sure that Zack fulfills his role in the original timeline. But they could genuinely do something really, really special with the grand finale. And I'm aware that part 3 or part 4 or whenever that is could be a monumental amount of time away. I could be potentially in my 30s by the time that happens. And I'm not kidding when I say that. I'm 22 now. I could easily be in my 30s by then. But it's the idea that it could that drives it home for me so much. I am so stupendously excited for Remake Part 2 onwards. I'm genuinely more excited for Part 2 than I was Part 1 because I no longer know what's going to happen. Because things can be different. My expectations have already been defied and I have complete faith. But I'm going to wrap this up here. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you after the new year. So Merry Christmas, have a great new year, and I'll see you then. Until then though, take care. Peace.